Someone must have dropped out, because Jamie was still mad at me for not including him in the London play, and he rarely called me anymore. I think he was secretly smug that my career didn't magically take off after Nico's production. It only got tepid reviews, and no one seemed to take much notice. A French theater producer talked my ear off after the show one night, but never returned any of my follow-up emails. Jamie worked for an agency that contracted dancers to work at corporate parties as low-end celebrity spokespeople who didn't speak. They would dress as sprites and toss giant balloons, dash through the crowd with long ribbon streamers doing jetés or pirouettes or cartwheels. The less desirable gigs were for bar mitzvahs, where they encouraged people to get on the dance floor. Jamie had inherited this gig from another dancer, and he held on to it for so long he was now the dance captain, or whatever you wanted to call it. I did need the money. I always needed the money. And if Noreen had known about it, she would have insisted I go. Noreen thought I never worked hard enough at things that would make money. And it was true. I didn't. I met Jamie at 7 the next morning in the lobby of a midtown office building. The dancers were huddled in a corner, most of them looking disheveled and as unhappy as I was about the time of day. They looked like a group of homeless people or anarchist gutter punks, begging you to drop change into their wilted paper cup. Jamie towered over them with his tall, thin frame, looking like a court-appointed caseworker in his neat clothes. "We're just waiting for someone from upstairs to sign us in," he said. I leaned against the glass wall and watched the office workers arrive for the day. They walked with such purpose. They had their ID cards out, ready to swipe through turnstiles, as if taking the time to pull the card out of their pocket would slow them down and somehow jeopardize their careers. Finally, a perky young woman carrying a bunch of keys came up to us. She led us to the security desk and sweet-talked the guard by explaining that we were guest dancers and circus performers. The guard didn't want to bother filling out visitor badges for all of us. He buzzed us through, saying to the perky girl, "You're responsible for them," as if we were a group of schoolchildren or pets. The perky girl's name was Jenna. She was barely 5 feet tall and wore her hair blown out and long, almost to her waist, as if to make up for her lack of height. Although it produced the opposite effect, making her seem even shorter than she was. She wore a nondescript gray suit with pitifully tight-fitting pants, and her eyes were unnaturally bright for so early in the morning. I wondered if she was on cocaine or some doctor-prescribed upper to help with her residual childhood whatever. She led us to an elevator, holding down the doors open button and flipping her hair over her shoulder. She wedged herself tightly into the corner and said, "I think we can all squish." We were on an express elevator that bypassed everything below the 20th floor, headed someplace in the 30s. When we got to wherever it was we were going, Jenna slinked out of the elevator first and led the way down a hall, through double glass doors emblazoned with some corporate inscription I didn't bother to read. Jenna skirted the main cube farm and herded us through a lesser-used part of the office, then down a dead-end hallway where she triumphantly turned around to face us. "So, I guess you can change in here," she said, indicating the bathrooms. Jamie was intolerant of any form of disrespect because he was a dancer. He strode ahead of the group, looked left and right at the gender-binary bathrooms, most likely filled with cramped stalls and urinals, and turned to face our escort. "This is unacceptable, Jenna," he said. "We need a dressing room. We're not preparing in a public toilet." Jamie always made a point of remembering people's names off the bat, and in this situation, using her name made her seem like his student, like she worked for him, as opposed to the other way around. Jenna's big bright eyes searched the hallway with worry. To her credit, she had led us to rarely used bathrooms and was prepared to stand guard and ward off passers-by with a shushed and friendly, "There's somebody changing in there." She was only thinking of us, but she wasn't thinking of us in the way Jamie wanted her to think of us. Jenna opened her mouth, perhaps to say something in her employer's defense, that these were well-maintained, private toilets, that she was certain we would find them comfortable and well-stocked. Or perhaps to apologize to us that these toilets were the best she could do, or to say that her boss was really the one in charge, but she was on maternity leave and Jenna just had so much on her plate these days. But Jenna didn't do any of those things. She bit her bottom lip and put her thinking cap on. Then she smiled and said, "Okay, follow me." We picked up our bags and threaded through the office warren.